And you're watching News 9, English news as it should be.
Hello everyone, you're watching Morning Brief at 9 with me, Sakshi Singh Litoria. Let's take a look at the top headlines of the day. Venezuela names Delcy Rodriguez as interim president after U.S. military action removes Nicolás Maduro, who appears in New York court on drug charges. U.S. oil stocks rally as Trump signals American access to Venezuela's vast oil reserves after arrest of President Nicolás Maduro. Wall Street rallies as Dow hits record high. Energy stocks surge on Venezuela developments and investors weigh oil access, rates and global risks. Rupee weakens to 90.30 for fourth straight session as dollar gains on geopolitical tensions and foreign fund outflows. Gold and silver surge to fresh highs as geopolitical tensions boost safe haven demand and drive strong global bullion rally. Greenland and Denmark push back as Trump revives talks of annexing the Arctic island, prompting European allies to warn its future must be decided by its people. Mexico's President Claudia Sheinbaum rejects U.S. action on Venezuela, reasserts sovereignty and non-intervention after Trump hints at military moves. India issues travel advisory urging citizens to avoid non-essential travel to Iran amid rising protests, security concerns and warning of possible foreign intervention. German Chancellor Friedrich Merz to begin his first India visit as New Delhi pushes deeper trade, technology and green energy ties with Europe amid the global tensions. And at top of 9, this is our top story. Venezuela's Vice President and Oil Minister Delcy Rodriguez was formally sworn in on Monday as the country's interim president as U.S. deposed President Nicolás Maduro appeared in a New York court on drug charges after the Trump administration removed him from power in a dramatic weekend military action. Rodriguez, a 56-year-old labor lawyer, known for close connections to the private sector and her devotion to the ruling party, was sworn in by her brother George, who is the head of the National Assembly legislature. And some buzz from the market. U.S. oil stocks surged on Monday after President Donald Trump said Washington would take control of Venezuela following the arrest of President Nicolás Maduro. The rally is driven by expectations that American oil majors could gain access to Venezuela's vast crude reserves, the largest in the world, in fact. Donald Trump says he spoke to the U.S. oil companies before and after the operation, raising hopes of fresh investment in a sector crippled by years of mismanagement, nationalization and sanctions.
U.S. oil company shares jumped on Monday, fueled by the prospect of access to Venezuela's vast oil reserves. This comes after President Donald Trump said the U.S. would take control of the South American nation following the arrest of its president. Venezuela holds the world's largest oil reserves, but production plummeted in recent decades due to mismanagement, limited foreign investment following the nationalization of its oil industry, and sanctions. Trump told reporters on Sunday that he spoke to all of the U.S. oil companies before and after American forces seized Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro from Caracas about his plans for investing in the country.
The country is a mess. It's been horribly run. The oil is just flowing at a very low level, much lower than, even if it was badly run, it should have more income, more oil than what they're doing. So we're going to have the big oil companies go in. They're going to fix the infrastructure, and they're going to invest money.
Shares of Chevron, the only U.S. major currently operating in Venezuela's oil fields, climbed more than 5% in morning trading. Shares of refiners also rose, with Valero climbing as much as 12%. Oil prices gained more than 1%, with analysts noting that in a global market with plentiful supply, any further disruption to Venezuela's exports would have little immediate impact on prices. Trump has said that the embargo on all Venezuelan oil exports would stay fully in effect for now. Analysts at J.P. Morgan said the U.S. action could also pave the way for the return of assets seized from ExxonMobil and others by Venezuela in 2007 under late leader Hugo Chavez. Though analysts overall caution that any meaningful recovery would likely take time, given political uncertainty, infrastructure decay, and years of underinvestment.
Gold prices surged in the national capital on Monday, rising 960 rupee to 1,40,400 rupee per 10 grams, tracking strong global cues amid intensifying geopolitical tensions. Silver, in fact, also extended its sharp rally as well, jumping to 2,600 to 2,44,000 rupee per kilogram. Analysts say safe haven demand is driving the surge in bullion, especially after heightened U.S. actions against Venezuela and rising concerns over regional instability in Latin America. In global markets, spot gold climbed over 2%, while silver gained more than 3%, reflecting strong investor and industrial demand. The Indian rupee remained under pressure for a fourth straight session on Monday, slipping 10 paise to close at 90.30 against the US dollar. Traders say rising geopolitical uncertainty, especially after US military action in Venezuela, has boosted safe haven demand for the dollar. Weak domestic equities and continued foreign fund outflows also weighed on the currency. The rupee has now fallen 55 paise since December 30th. While the dollar index strengthened and crude prices edged higher. Markets remain cautious as investors track global tensions, capital flows, and upcoming trade developments. Let's see what's happening at the Wall Street. It closed higher on Monday with the Dow Jones Industrial Average hitting a fresh all-time high, led by a rally in financial stocks. Energy shares, in fact, also surged after a U.S. military operation captured Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro, boosting expectations of a potential access to the country's vast oil reserves. More in our next report.
Wall Street stocks ended higher Monday, with the Dow closing up about 1.25% and the S&P 500 and Nasdaq adding between 6 and 0.7% each. The Dow hit an all-time high during the session thanks to surging financial shares. Also, stocks of energy firms jumped after a U.S. military strike that captured Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro, who pleaded not guilty on Monday to narcotics charges in U.S. court. Investors bet Washington's move against Venezuela's leadership would allow U.S. firms access to the world's largest oil reserves. President Donald Trump's administration plans to meet with executives from U.S. oil companies this week to discuss boosting Venezuelan production. Kevin Mon, President and Chief Investment Officer with Hennion & Walsh Asset Management, says investors shouldn't change their approach because of what's happened in Venezuela.
Obviously, we're going to see more and more come out in the headlines as it relates to all the courtroom drama and what that may mean for the global world order. But as it relates to the economy and energy prices, it's going to be some time until we know the net effect there. So investors should continue to focus on the market, the economy, the Federal Reserve, the AI revolution, while also paying attention to what's unfolding with respect to Venezuela.
Other stocks on the move included Versant Media Group, the Comcast spinoff that includes CNBC and other cable channels, which dropped 13% on its first day of trading. And language learning platform Duolingo advanced about 5% after Bank of America Global Research upgraded the shares to buy from hold.
Shots were fired late Monday near Venezuela's presidential palace, while the government has added that the situation was under control. Reports stated that unidentified drones flew over the Miraflores Palace in central Caracas, and in fact, security forces also opened fire in response to it. Meanwhile, in the U.S., Nicolás Maduro and his wife Celia Flores have both pled not guilty to the charges of narco-terrorism and drug trafficking.
No me jodas.
Meanwhile, at an emergency UN Security Council meeting which was held on Monday, U.S. Ambassador Mike Waltz rejected accusations that Washington had acted aggressively against Venezuela, insisting the operation was a law enforcement action linked to long-standing criminal charges. Venezuela strongly pushed back to it, with its UN envoy Samuel Moncada calling the move an armed and illegitimate attack with no legal justification. Let's listen in.
Extendemos la más cordial bienvenida.
El 3 de enero del 2026.
The events of January 3rd, 2026 constitute a day of profound historical gravity, not only for Venezuela, but for the international system as a whole. That day, the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela was the subject of an armed and illegitimate attack lacking all legal justification by the government of the United States of America.
Por parte del gobierno de los Estados Unidos de América.
There is no war against Venezuela or its people. We are not occupying a country. This was a law enforcement operation in furtherance of lawful indictments that have existed for decades. The United States arrested a narco-trafficker who is now going to stand trial in the United States in accordance with the rule of law for the crimes he's committed against our people for 15 years.
Meanwhile, Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer is demanding clarity from President Donald Trump after he said the United States would run Venezuela following the military capture of ousted leader Nicolás Maduro. Schumer says Congress needs answers on the scope, legality and consequences of any U.S. role in Venezuela as concerns grow over escalation and long-term involvement in the country.
The administration owes Congress and the American people some pretty basic answers to many important questions. Most importantly, what the hell does Donald Trump mean when he says the United States now intends to run Venezuela? Does this mean we're now in the business of nation-building Venezuela? Are we going to put troops on the ground? How many? Where? And how much will it cost? How long will this go on? These questions should be answered to the Congress and, more importantly, to the American people before the administration attempts anything akin to so-called running Venezuela. The American people did not sign up for another round of endless wars. They want Donald Trump to focus on the problems here at home, on health care, on housing, on energy, on groceries. But Donald Trump's promise to keep us out of foreign entanglements is now as worthless as his promise to release the Epstein files. He promises his base one thing on the campaign trail and does the exact opposite once he's in office. And it's the American people who will pay the price. We need to end Donald Trump's destructive tariffs. We need to help families afford daycare. These are the things that Americans care about, not invading Venezuela, not attacking Colombia or dreaming of invading Greenland.
Protesters clashed outside a New York federal courthouse on Monday as supporters and opponents of U.S. action gathered during the court appearance of ousted Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro. Maduro pleaded not guilty to multiple criminal charges, including narco-terrorism, conspiracy to import cocaine, and possession of machine guns and destructive devices. The high-profile case has intensified political debate, drawing sharp reactions on the street, as well as from governments watching closely around the world.
Nicolás Maduro today is going to be brought to justice after 14 years of running our country, after more than 20 years of a ruthless dictatorship.
Here for the arraignment to say, free Maduro, to say the U.S. has no right to be holding the president of Venezuela and his wife, Celia Flores, in U.S. courts.
Now, Greenland's leader has also declared enough is enough as Denmark and its allies, pushed back against renewed remarks by US President Donald Trump about acquiring the Arctic island. Remember, Donald Trump has repeatedly expressed interest in annexing mineral-rich Greenland, comments that have raised fresh alarms after Washington's dramatic move against Venezuela. Now, European leaders insist Greenland's future must be decided by its people and not by the foreign powers.
Greenland's leader has declared enough is enough after US President Donald Trump again spoke of taking over the vast territory. Trump has repeatedly said he wants to annex Greenland, an autonomous Danish territory with significant mineral resources. Concerns have sharpened in Greenland and Denmark after the capture of Venezuela's president in a stunning US raid on Saturday, with Trump stating Washington intended to oversee governance of the South American country. Speaking to reporters aboard Air Force One early on Monday, Trump said he'd revisit the topic of Greenland in a few weeks.
We need Greenland from the standpoint of national security, and the European Union needs us to have it, and they know that.
That followed similar remarks on Sunday, which prompted the stiff rebuke from Greenland's Prime Minister Jens Friedrich Nielsen. Threats, pressure and talk of annexation have no place between friends, he posted on Facebook late on Sunday. Enough is enough. No more fantasies about annexation. Support came swiftly from Nordic and Baltic leaders. President Alexander Stubb of Finland posted on X, "No one decides for Greenland and Denmark, but Greenland and Denmark themselves." Greenland's strategic location between Europe and North America makes it a critical site in the US ballistic missile defense system, while its resources align with Washington's ambition to slash dependence on Chinese exports. On December 21, Trump appointed Louisiana Governor Jeff Landry as special envoy to Greenland. Landry has publicly expressed support for incorporating the territory into the United States.
Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum has reinforced Mexico's opposition to Washington's attack on Venezuela and the extradition of its president, stressing that Mexico is a sovereign nation. Speaking on Monday, Sheinbaum said Mexico continues to cooperate with the United States on drug trafficking and security, but rejects foreign intervention. Her remarks come after President Donald Trump hinted at possible military action in Mexico against drug cartels, comments that align with her government's long-standing stance and Mexico's constitutional principle of non-intervention.
It is necessary to reaffirm that in Mexico, the people are in charge and that we are a free, independent, and sovereign country. Cooperation, yes. Subordination and intervention, no. These are ways of speaking of President Trump. I don't believe in invasion. I don't even think it's something they are taking very seriously. But we express it he said it several times in the calls we've had. There have been almost 14 calls, if I remember correctly. He has insisted on several occasions that the United States military be able to enter Mexico. And we have said no very firmly. First, because we defend our sovereignty. And second, because it is not necessary.
Defendemos nuestra soberanía. Y segundo, porque no es necesario.
US President Donald Trump has claimed that Washington will receive more than $600 billion in tariff revenue, arguing that the levies have made America both financially stronger and more secure. In a post made on Truth Social on Monday, Donald Trump said the US has already taken in massive tariff collections, accusing what he called the quote-unquote fake news media of downplaying the figures ahead of a crucial Supreme Court decision on tariffs. Donald Trump insisted the measures have boosted America's global standing and strengthened national security. Since returning to the White House for a second term, he has rolled out sweeping tariffs on imports from countries around the world, saying the US had long been treated unfairly in global trade. Amongst the most significant moves are steep tariffs on India, including a 50% levy overall, with 25% tied to India's purchases of Russian oil, a decision that has sparked concerns among the trading partners and global markets. And now, in view of recent developments, India has issued a travel advisory for its citizens travelling to Iran. Indian nationals have been advised to avoid all non-essential travel to the Islamic Republic of Iran until further notice. This advisory also urges Indian citizens and persons of Indian origin currently in Iran to exercise due caution, avoid areas witnessing protest or demonstrations, and closely monitor the news updates, including advisories issued on the website and social media handles of the Embassy of India in Tehran. Indian nationals residing in Iran on resident visas have been advised to register with the Indian Embassy if they have not already done so. India issued the advisory amid growing protests in Iran over inflation and the rising cost of living. There are around 10,000 Indian nationals in Iran, most of them students. A large number of Shia Muslim pilgrims also travel to the country. The travel advisory comes against the backdrop of a warning by the US President Donald Trump, who has threatened intervention if Iranian authorities crack down on protesters. Reports say about 15 people, including security personnel, have died since the protest emerged. The largest in the past 3 years began about a week ago. German Chancellor Friedrich Merz will visit India from January 12th to 13th on his official first trip to the country since taking office, as New Delhi looks to deepen economic engagement with Europe amid Washington's punitive tariffs on Indian goods. Merz will arrive in Ahmedabad on January 12th and later then travel to Bengaluru with key engagements, including talks with Prime Minister Narendra Modi. The Ministry of External Affairs says the two leaders will review progress in the India-Germany strategic partnership, which completed 25 years last year, and will focus on strengthening cooperation in trade and investment, technology, education, skilling and mobility. Discussions will also cover defense and security, science and innovation, green and sustainable development, and people-to-people ties as well. This visit comes just days before senior European Union leaders arrived in Delhi to push forward the long-pending India-European Union Free Trade Agreement and ahead of French President Emmanuel Macron's visit for the AI summit. Prime Minister Modi and Merz are also expected to exchange views on key regional and global issues, including the Russia-Ukraine conflict, while reviewing progress on clean energy cooperation, notably the Indo-German Green Hydrogen Roadmap launched in year 2024. A Paris court has found 10 people guilty of cyber harassing French First Lady Brigitte Macron after they spread false claims about her gender and sexuality online. The court said the defendants made malicious comments and wrongly linked the age gap between her and President Emmanuel Macron to pedophilia. The 8 men and 2 women received penalties ranging from suspended sentences to 6 months in jail.
10 people have been found guilty of cyberbullying French First Lady Brigitte Macron. A Paris court convicted the defendants on Monday, making malicious comments about her gender and sexuality and equating her 24-year age difference with her husband to, quote, paedophilia. The 8 men and 2 women received a range of penalties, from 6 months in jail to suspended sentences. Reuters could not immediately contact lawyers for those convicted. Speaking outside the court, Brigitte Macron's lawyer, Jean Enoki, told reporters they were expecting the verdict.
This situation makes sense. The ruling makes sense because it recognizes the cyber harassment and all the defendants were found guilty. What is important also is the fact that there is a provisional enforcement on the awareness courses and for some of the defendants banning access to their social media accounts.
The French first couple have long faced such falsehoods, including allegations that Brigitte Macron was born under the name Jean-Michel Trogneux, the actual name of her older brother. The Macrons have also largely ignored barbs and criticism over their age difference, but have recently begun challenging them in court. Monday's ruling also marks a victory for the Macrons as they pursue a separate, high-profile US defamation lawsuit. That's against right-wing influencer and podcaster Candace Owens, who has also claimed Brigitte Macron was born male.
The world's biggest tech show, CES 2026, is underway from Tuesday through Friday, showcasing the latest innovations shaping the future. Artificial intelligence is taking the center stage this year, transforming everything from humanoid robots and, in fact, smart toys to healthcare solutions and autonomous driving. The event offers a glimpse into how AI is rapidly moving from concept to everyday reality. Here's our last report from this bulletin on your screens.
From robotics to pocket pets,
AI agents, that's autonomous software systems that use artificial intelligence, are central to many tech innovations at CES 2026.
Wow, that's cool.
First-time exhibitor X-Origin AI has brought along its educational companion, Yonbo, which teaches children how to use AI prompts. Here's Vice President Sylvia Fan.
Yonbo will lead kids into AI magic world, and the kids will, it's kind of can be immersive.
Zeroth is presenting a compact, lightweight humanoid robot that uses different AI software systems for different needs. As founder and CEO Renji Guo explains.
For example, for the elder people, you can download the agent to write the autobiography. For example, you talk with them more and more, and the AI will structure it and to have your own autobiography.
Also on display is Suica's AI pocket pet. Think Tamagotchi, but much smarter. Health tech includes Defy's Sidekick, which CEO and co-founder Luke Mooney describes as powered footwear, like an e-bike for walking.
With every step you take, it gives you a little boost and kind of helps you walk. We are really targeting and focusing folks that can walk but have some challenges.
Gary Shapiro, CEO of the Consumer Technology Association, which runs CES, says artificial intelligence is making the world better from business to industry.
What I'm excited about is seeing the solutions to big problems the world has. So food, people shouldn't be hungry. Food production. You know, we have major companies like Caterpillar speaking. Also, clean air, clean water, energy. That's not something we focused on before.
CES spans 13 venues in Las Vegas and 250,000 square meters of space, featuring thousands of exhibitors.
शिव प्रकाश जी सिर्फ 35 साल की उम्र में हार्ट अटैक से अचानक चले गए। टर्म लाइफ इंश्योरेंस के पैसों से उनके माँ बाप को सहारा मिलेगा। पॉलिसी बाजार ने क्लेम के वक्त फैमिली का पूरा साथ दिया। पॉलिसी बाजार पे 1 करोड़ का टर्म लाइफ इंश्योरेंस सिर्फ 400 रुपए महीने से शुरू।